So I'm going to take you through step by step all of the things that you're going to need to do in order to put together this essay. This is a really important PowerPoint, so I hope that this will help you with each facet. So number one, for preparation, you want to read the prompt and watch the video explaining it. So the prompt is located in our week 5 module. If you just go there, the prompt is there, so you can read through it. And then here is a video that is going through it and explaining it as well. So just make sure you have a really good understanding of it before you even get started. Then you really want to take some time to do some brainstorming. That's going to help you down the line when you start writing. So there's a few different things you can do. One is a free write, which means choose one of the 4 choices that are on the prompt and that you want to write about. And then for 10 minutes, just write down anything and everything that comes to mind about that topic. So set an alarm on your phone and just write down anything, examples from your own personal life, anecdotes from friends that you know, personal experiences, things you're curious about, questions you have, people you might quote from, celebrities you know that have gone through this, anything you can think of. And that just gives you a starting point. Also, you might try a bubble map. If you just click on that link, it will take you to an example. This is more of a visual way to brainstorm, and some people like it better, so just an option for you there. Outlining too. If you're going to outline, make a list of, first of all, your thesis. So what's your argument? Your main points, and think of as many as you can, because you'd rather have too many topics than not enough. And if you brainstorm that up front, then you won't have trouble making the minimum page count. And your conclusion. Think about how you want to wrap up. What is it that you want your audience to remember? What action do you want them to take? That kind of stuff. So think about, how do you want to conclude this whole thing? Next, go back to past assignments, readings, and videos that we've done for this unit. All of those things are designed to help you. So which points in previous homework assignments could you build on for your essay? You can use anything that you've done for homework, at any of the readings we've done from the textbook, anything like that. Also, which sources can you quote from in your essay? So reread or rewatch the readings or videos and type out direct quotes that you can use in your essay. So, go back and watch the first parts of the videos, or really the whole video, and you can fast forward to things and that kind of thing, but try to find direct quotes is what you want that you can include in your essay that will reinforce what you think. So that way you've already got that done, and that will help you once you start writing. Once you get started here, formatting is really important. It does need to be in MLA formatting, but there's a couple ways to help. So formatting is important and can sometimes be intimidating or confusing, but if you use the template below, the formatting is already set up for you. So here is a link to the Google Docs formatting. Here is a link to Microsoft Word formatting. So please use these formats. Formatting is a part of your grade, so just make sure that it's formatted correctly. But if you use these, then you don't have to try to do it yourself. There's also tons and tons of videos out there. If you just Google MLA formatting essay, it will come up. Okay, so the essential parts here, number 1 is your title. So come up with a fun title. Think of it like clickbait. You want to entice your reader to read on. So, and also capitalize all the main words of the title. And what I don't want you to do is just write essay 1 or argument essay or something like that. I actually want you to come up with a title that goes along with your argument. And don't write something vague like just social media. There's billions of things that you could write about with social media, so I want you to be more specific. So some of the examples: addiction to social media and how to overcome it. That's one of the ones we read. Connected but alone. That was the video. Is social media addictive? Here's what science says. It's actually a typo there, but so that kind of thing. Try to figure out something and make it kind of fun and interesting. So, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just throw something out there. Next, introduction. There's 4 things that you want to do. So number 1, gain the reader's interest and willingness to listen. So try not to use the question. Questions are usually not very good at the beginnings of essays. Things that are better are like a startling statistic, something that might make people go, wow, I didn't realize that. Or an interesting personal story like we saw with Caleb Wong when he was writing about his social media addiction. Anything like that could help. Indicate your qualifications to write about the topic. That doesn't mean you have to be an expert or an author or, a doctor or anything like that. It just means that you have to be involved in some way. So if you use social media every day, then you're qualified to write about that topic. Also, if you're a smartphone owner and you're going to talk about how that affects our communication, again, you use it every day, right? So that is your qualifications. Establish common ground with your audience. How can you connect with them? Think about this as like, what would you talk about with your friends, or how would you connect with a new friend about this, or, bond with them in some way? So think about something that might work for that. And then you want to state your claim. Just make sure it's an argument. It has to be argumentative. So it can't just be a statement. So something poor like lots of people use social media, that's not argumentative. And it's, of course, that's just, but if you say something like, although social media has many positives, users need to limit their screen time to prevent addictions that can lead to mental health issues. Now it's much more involved. Now we know what the topic is. There is something they want the user to do, limit their screen time, and why? Because it can lead to addictions and mental health issues. So there's some specifics in there. All right. Next, let's see, body paragraphs. Make sure you have a topic sentence, and that should not be a quote from anyone. So your topic sentence needs to indicate what the topic of the paragraph is, and each sentence in the paragraph should reinforce that topic, and so should the concluding sentence. So all of that needs to reinforce. So let's look at an example here. If we look at this one from Caleb Wong's, he starts out saying, to change an addiction routine, you have to find out what your cue is and figure out how to get the same reward through a different response. So he's talking about a solution, specifically looking for the cue, and let's see if the rest of his lines in here go with that. So he gives an example. For example, my desire for a momentary distraction from the humdrum of everyday life makes me wander into the voyeurism of social media for the reward of relaxation. So that's an example, his own personal example, that talks about the cue for him. So that definitely relates. And then he says, but recognizing that cue, I realized that calling a friend or reading a book, for example, would also help me relax, avoiding the addiction of social media. So he's giving a solution here. It's a personal one. He's still talking about the cue and how to create a new cue. So it's also related. Then he gives a quote. He says, it's not easy. New York Times writer Jack Chi cites a recent study by Duke University researchers that suggests that habits prime us to feed our cravings by leaving specific marks in our brains. So he is talking here about addiction. So again, it's related. And then he says, this is troubling, but it's certainly possible to change a habit and hence your life through this step. So again, this changing your habit is talking about overcoming this cue and getting a different response. So every single one of these things all goes together. In your conclusion, you want to summarize your argument, elaborate on the implications of your claim, make clear what you want the audience to think or do, and reinforce your credibility and perhaps offer an emotional appeal. That emotional appeal could be anything, could be a statistic, could be a personal example, an anecdote, it could be anything. But you want to make sure that your conclusion doesn't just reinforce your introduction. It shouldn't be the same. Your introduction and conclusion should not be the same. Your conclusion should elaborate more, because now you've already written this whole essay. You've told your reader everything. Now you want to elaborate more. So just make sure they're very different. Finding evidence. So facts. So research facts on Google by asking questions that you're just curious about. So, and also make sure to write down the source of any facts. You have to cite them, and you might forget where they are later. So if you look up facts, just write down where you're getting them from, or, put down, copy and paste the link in your phone or, on a Word doc or whatever, but make sure that you have those, because you can't just cite those in your essay without a citation. So examples, what causes social media addiction? What are the symptoms? How does it affect people's lives? Have any celebrities spoken out about this? What are the solutions? Any of those questions. And this is just an example, by the way, about addiction. Of course, you guys have 4 different topics. I'm just giving, examples from one, but it could be anything. So actually just think about it. What are you curious about? And then see what facts you can find. Statistics. Again, ask questions you're looking for to look for interesting stats, and think about it specifically for statistics. So something, and again, make sure to write down the source. You have to cite the source in the essay. Maybe say what percentage of people are addicted. That might be interesting to know. What gender is most affected? What age is most affected? All of those things are things where you might find some interesting stats, and that specifically, those questions kind of gear it towards statistics. For examples, think of personal examples you can include or examples from friends. If this is something that has affected you, personal examples are great. Make sure to make the story interesting, though. Include lots of relevant details. What happened? How does it relate to your topic? So here is the example that Caleb Wong uses in the article that we read. He says, "I was broken. I applied to become a member of a student society. Unlike many others, it seemed like the right fit and I got an interview. Then I didn't get in, so I hurt myself. Succumbing to my worst instincts, I spent several hours on Facebook and Twitter looking through the society's accounts and those of its members. I saw the gleam of their uniforms and the casual perfection of their lives, the heads of state they greeted, and the inspirational quotations they tweeted, etc., etc." So lots and lots of details in here, and they're very relevant. They're relatable. All of this, they're emotional too. So great example here. Authority and textual evidence. Look for reputable sources on the topic. This is part of your requirements for the essay. Procon.org is great. It can give some good arguments. It gives pros and cons on topics. So see if your topic is in there. It may or may not be. So if it isn't, then you won't be able to use that. But it is a possible place to look. Look at the LBCC library, of course, and ask the librarians online for advice. They do have chats right in with it. And librarians might save you a ton of time because obviously they're experts. So they can tell you where to look or where to find things, that kind of stuff. Google Scholar is great too. You just type Google Scholar into Google and it gives you their scholarly search engine. Also, if you want to use just Google itself, put in reputable publications like the New York Times, the LA Times. So you might say something like social media addiction, New York Times, and see what pops up. You might also want to put a year to make sure that it's relevant there. Put into Google reputable people. Maybe put something like social media addiction psychologist and see if you can find some quotes from reputable psychologists, or you could put doctor or, author or anything like that. Those are ways to find sources from reputable people. Now, once you've found those sources, now you got to look for quotes from those authorities. So once you've found sources to quote, link the article, read the article, or watch the video, it could be video too, and write down quotes you can use in your essay to reinforce what you think. So you're looking for quotes in the article or from the video if you're going to watch a video, but you want to make a list like this. So first put the link to the source because that way you can go back and look at it in case, you need more quotes or something later. And then write down a quote. This is just a quote that I wrote down that could help if you're writing about public shaming. This says, "There often is no chance for rehabilitation for those who are shamed, especially given the relative permanency and uncertain timelines of punishments in the online world. However, those responsible for the mass shaming are said to often not consider or care about this." So, and then I put a little note, this would be good to show how shaming affects people long term. That might be something that I might be talking about in a paragraph. So now I've got all these quotes, and then once I start writing, I can just insert them. Anecdote or scenario, make up a story or scenario that illustrates what you're talking about. Use keywords to indicate it's a made-up story. So you might say something like, let's say, for instance, that, XYZ happens. It's just a way for you to, use a story to make things more clear for the reader. Case studies are awesome. They're a great thing to put in. Look for scholarly studies on the topic. And again, make sure you write down the source of any facts. You have to cite them. But you might put things into Google like social media addiction studies, public shaming studies, all that kind of stuff. And that's almost always scholarly. And it usually has great statistics, usually has great quotes. Case studies are really excellent for including in your essay. Visuals. You can also use visuals too, but make sure that your visuals aren't, you can always have more than the minimum page count for essays, but you don't want your visuals to take up all your space. So, but visuals can be good. But remember, if you use visuals, you have to cite where they came from, and you have to add a caption underneath explaining what they show. And you also have to refer to them in the essay. So you might say something like, as the chart at right shows, XYZ. But charts are great, graphs are great, photos are great, infographics. An example of a photo might be the photo of the three girls hanging out together, but all on their phones from Connected But Alone. So if you wanted to talk about how smartphones are affecting our communication, that would be a great photo to include. You can just screenshot it or take a photo with your phone from the video, and or any other ones she has on there. That's great. Make sure you're citing her video though, if you're going to use those in your essay. All right, guys. Good luck with everything, and I hope this all helps.